it's not really as big of a news story as it might have been had he not torn his ACL last year. Had he played the entirety of last season, if he played all the way through the playoffs and perhaps had some playoff production, Stefan Diggs leaving for the New England Patriots would be a bigger deal. But this was one of those things where I think we always expected Stefan Diggs to sign elsewhere, and he signed a 3 years, $69 million nice deal with the Patriots. 26 of it is guaranteed. So it's a 1-year deal, I think, for Diggs. The kind of deal that I think very few teams would have even considered offering. The Patriots have just been so bad at getting wide receiver talent for years and years and years that they had to overpay for someone who I think is on the other side of his career. Like, I do not think this is going to go great for the Pats. And it does bum me out a little bit because, one, I liked Stefon Diggs when he was here. Felt like the Texans babied him a little bit and should have been some more media availabilities. But I liked Diggs when he was here. I thought he played well. He was a good teammate. All the crap that he got dumped on from his time in Buffalo, that wasn't a problem here. Everyone seemed to like him. We were thinking going into the year, hey, how is he going to handle a receiver room where he's not getting a lot of targets, especially just knowing how he is. But, I mean, if you watched the games that he was in, I always thought that of all the players on the Texans sideline, when they would zoom in on him, no one was more positive during moments of strife for the Texans offense. And there were a lot of those, right? I mean, geez, between the false starts and the holds and all that stuff, the Texans offense had some really rough moments this past season. And Diggs was more of a leader than Laramie Tunsil was in those situations. Yeah, there's one specific moment. It was against the Vikings when all the false starts were happening. And Diggs, while everyone's coming out the field, specifically Laramie Tunsil, he's like going up to Laramie Tunsil and he's like encouraging him. I was like, whoa, okay. I didn't know Diggs had that in his bag. Everyone said that when something goes wrong, Diggs is going to call you on it because he's super competitive. No, I thought he matured a little bit. The problem is now, I mean, coming off a torn ACL at age 31, I don't care if the injury took place 5 months ago and if it's easier than ever to come back from a torn ACL. That's going to be really tough for Diggs.
Yeah, it was going to be really tough, and it was going to be even tougher for the Texans to make it work just with all that they need to do along the offensive line. Never mind the contract he ended up getting from the Patriots,
Right.
which I don't know if they would have had to beat that. Also, such a classic case of the first number that gets reported. It's like 3 years, $69 million. You're like, wait, he's going to make over 20 per year? Like,
Yeah.
he's going to make almost 25 per year and then 26 million guaranteed. It's like, oh, okay. So it's a 1-year contract.
It's a
basically.
1-year deal. That's it.
But yeah, that's something that the Texans just weren't going to be able to do or probably even come close to. So it makes sense that it would never actually seem very real in the during this offseason.
It definitely makes, though, wide receiver probably need number one. I think with where they're drafting, it's between interior offensive line and wide receiver. And I again think that people are far too confident in what's going to happen in the draft based off of the scouting reports done by other people. So I'm not going to tell you who I think is going to be available at the back. I'll leave that for real experts like Lance Zierlein there. But it was interesting to see yesterday Nick Caserio at the Texas Pro Day. Did you see how intense he was watching things?
Yes. What a stance by Robo Caserio.
So
not beating the robot allegation.
No, not at all. Although it was definitely robot trying to assimilate to human movement. But it was so locked in, so intense. There is a video online. I think the NFL posted this on X of while Quinn Ewers is throwing for his pro day workout, Nick Caserio is standing in the end zone in the Texas practice bubble. His hands are on both of his knees as if he is, and I've only seen one other guy do this, Lee Corso and his designer jeans, practically standing on the field in a game between Texas A&M and Florida in 2012. It was the first time I ever went to College Station. I was watching that game on the sideline, had the privilege of standing next to Chris Fowler the whole game. One of the nicest guys I've ever met in sports media. Unbelievably generous with his time. Talked to us the whole time. But the whole game, even though Chris Fowler was like actually being really cool with us and talking to me and John Cassio for probably like 20 minutes or so, I could not get the image of Lee Corso on the sideline, on the 20-yard line, like in the white by himself as if he's an actual coach. And the only time I've ever seen intensity like that of a man who has his hands on both of his knees watching football is from Nick Caserio in the end zone at an effing pro day yesterday for Texas. You have to look this up. It is weirdly intense to the point where I'm like, wait a second. Is Nick Caserio looking at Quinn Ewers and starting to feel some things?
He's also standing by himself. Like there's
by himself.
There's no one within 10 yards.
It's about as weird as watching Elon Musk balancing a bunch of spoons on his hand that we saw a couple of days ago, I think, at a White House dinner. Like there's this fancy dinner, and Elon Musk has this attractive woman next to him, and he's just completely checked out. President Trump is right to his right, and he's just standing there, and he's balancing a bunch of spoons on his hand. And there's this attractive girl that I'm sure Elon Musk probably had a child with after things were done because she was just enamored with what he was doing. She takes out her phone, she starts recording it. That kind of intensity was the intensity with which Nick Caserio was staring at Quinn Ewers, to the point where, Sean, I am wondering if once again CJ Stroud is going to be looking over his shoulder at Quinn Ewers like he did at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers, Davis Mills, backup quarterback battle.
That would be something else. Like, hey, if Quinn Ewers falls to the third or fourth round,
no, pick an offensive lineman.
It would be so funny if the Texans drafted Quinn Ewers. I imagine he will go before that, though. Just
although
given the lack of quarterback options.
Patriots, they always picked a quarterback in like the third round.
Ooh, that's true. Well, listen, this is a big sticking point for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was really pissed at John Schneider, GM of the Seahawks, because he went to the pro days for one, Patrick Mahomes 1 year, which right call. Two, Josh Allen the next year. Like the guy did his due diligence.
I remember that.
And Russell Wilson was pissed about this like years later. And I mean, honestly, look who's the better quarterbacks. Both of those guys.
Yeah, they should draft John Schneider. Should have drafted him. Now they weren't really in position.
Yeah, it would have been tough, but it wasn't like completely out of reach. You know, if the Chiefs could trade up from wherever they were to go get Mahomes, and the Seahawks probably could have
like 15th.
Yeah,
10th?
It just would be awkward to do it only a couple of years after the Seahawks were in the Super Bowl. But yeah, Nick Caserio at the Texas Pro Day, you watched it with quite an intense look in his eyes and a very, very intense stance. And what actually happened at this pro day? Isaiah Bond improved on his 40 dash time, 0.01 second improvement, and he had 0 drops.
No, still didn't
beat the record.
Okay.
Still.
Okay.
Didn't. He said he was going to run the fastest 40 time ever. Didn't do that. They've already interviewed with Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, and they're going to interview running back Jaden Blue.
Huge update.
Big update.
I'm glad there's a graphic for it.
Yes, there's one of the NFL Texans aggregators posted update Texans to interview running back.
Yeah.
And then, as all of these rather posts are, sorry for that graphic motion on the air, for all of those posts, you will see some rando who's like, imagine a guy running a 4.36 in the Texans offense with CJ Stroud. And yeah, again,
I remember Trendon Holiday. I've seen a fast guy in a Texans uniform before.
Trendon Holiday was good though, and the Texans let him walk. And I think did Trendon Holiday have a touchdown against the Texans in the playoffs?
That sounds familiar. I think he was also on a Super Bowl team.
He did. Yeah, we'll have to look that up. Anyway, guys, it's the Paul Gallant Show, most interactive sports talk show in town. Sean Mapes is behind the glass. 713-780-3776 to call in to text in on the YouTube. Marty says, we need an offensive lineman, not another quarterback. I just hope Quinn Ewers ends up somewhere safe for us, like the Cowboys. Okay, this sounds like a Texas fan. I am not concerned about Quinn Ewers as a pro prospect. I'm sorry, I'm not. He's had some flashes. He is so effing inconsistent.
Not the only chance he has, but what I imagine the best chance for him will be is a Shanahan, McVay, Kevin O'Connell, like robot point and shoot quarterback system where they're like, hey, listen, we made this work with Sam Darnold. All right. You just do exactly what I say. And that's it.
Yeah.
And boom. I think he can do that. He can, if you just point him in the direction and say, make that throw, he can do it. When he has to create outside the structure, it goes terribly wrong.
So he's going to be Jared Goff. He needs a headset guy.
Yes.
Ooh, what Rams? Quinn Ewers? Replacement for Matt Stafford?
Groom him behind Matt Stafford. I don't know.
That honestly, that would be interesting.
That's like those are the only situations where I would think like this could work. Everything else, I think you're kind of just burning a draft pick of like, hey, we took a guy, let's see if he develops.
Also, the other prospects for Texas and just Steve Sarkisian as a whole. Texas's offense was so frustrating last year. And I'm not really sure who to point at because obviously Quinn Ewers is the easy person to point at. But I mean, all these weapons that everyone's talking about is like first round players, second round players. And the offense was that last year.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like back to back drafts. And some of this is defensive players of like 13 guys drafted. And it's like, huh.
Look, Sark's a little overrated. I think Sark, there's no denying what a good job he has done with Texas, but I think like the offensive guru, let's relax a little bit, just given the amount of weapons he had to work with and the lack of production in big spots by that offense.
It's definitely like it's either Sark or Quinn Ewers, and I feel like we'll know of like which one of these guys is the like kind of overhyped part of it, because even like Sarkisian, like at Alabama, they're awesome at Alabama, but they also had 5 first-round wide receivers
every single year.